Hi, we are here at Atlantic Health Systems, home of Atlantic Sports Health. I am here with exercise physiologist Cyndee Wong. Cyndee's going to talk to us about the importance of an exercise test for athletes and why is it helpful?
So, an exercise test is a test that's typically done on a treadmill. It usually lasts about 8 to 12 minutes. And an athlete is fitted with a spirometer. And essentially that's just a mask that goes over your nose and your mouth. And it's hooked up to a machine that will measure the volume of oxygen your body is consuming. So we will set the athlete at a constant speed on the treadmill, and we'll gradually bring the incline up. And they're basically going to run until failure. So what this test does, it measures your VO2 max, and that is the best index for determining what your work capacity is, or in other words, your aerobic fitness capacity. And the higher this value is, your higher your VO2 max is, the better shape you're in, aerobically speaking.
Well, that's important. And, obviously, why is that important for athletes? I mean, obviously I know why, but I explain to our audience, why that aerobic capacity in this test and the measuring of this test is important.
So what we can do with the data that we collect from this test is determine, for example, where an athlete's anaerobic threshold is. And from there, we can create an exercise prescription for them. And based on where their anaerobic threshold is, we can set specific training zones that are personalized to that athlete.
Yeah. So for our audience, define anaerobic threshold, what that means in terms of an athlete's performance.
So anaerobic threshold is the point when you're exercising where there's a rapid rise in lactic acid in your blood. And from there, it's like an exponential rise, and you can't work out much longer after that.
Right.
And so one of the positive training effects is to kind of shift that anaerobic threshold over to the right more. And so it takes you a little bit longer to reach that anaerobic threshold.
Awesome. It's kind of like, for people, it's different distances. If you were to sprint all out,
Correct.
Some people might reach that anaerobic threshold at maybe 150 meters. Some might be 200 meters. Correct. Some might be 400 meters. And almost everyone will reach it close to 800 meters. You're world-class athletes, right? In terms of finding that threshold where you now need to start to utilize oxygen. You go from using ATP in your muscles to transferring into using oxygen to transition into that aerobic capacity.
Yes.
So it's that middle, stage, right? And the more we can build up or create in, the ability to put that stage off a little bit,
Exactly.
the more powerful you can be for a longer period of time.
Correct.
Yeah, awesome. How often should an athlete get tested?
So after the initial test, we can retest after about 6 weeks or so. That's typically when you would see a training effect, whether it's an increase in your VO2 max or, like I said, a shift in your anaerobic threshold.
That's great. And you do that here, obviously, at Atlantic
Yes.
Health. Yep, Atlantic Sports Health. Well, that's great. Cyndee, thank you so much for the information. This is another advanced technique for athletes that really, or for anyone that wants to reach their potential, from a fitness standpoint, from an athletic standpoint. The technology is here, and it's driven through information, through understanding where your abilities are, and helps you set goals, helps you measure, because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, right? So if you can measure it, you can manage it, you can improve performance. Again, thanks so much.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Look forward to our next segment.